Welcome to Racism Unfiltered, White Women Talk. Happy to have you here. I'm Kim.
I'm Michelle.
And we're going to be discussing a number of incredible topics with you. What I'd like to talk about today is all of the hidden history in details that most people don't know about. And once they find out, they're blown away. But it's not trivial stuff. It's really serious stuff.
Right. Well, and again, is it hidden history or is it just history by design, not taught? Because it's
by
it's
design,
not hidden, right?
by design.
Yeah. We can find all this information. It is there now that we have the internet and amazing historians that have written so many amazing books. So the history is there. It was hidden by design.
Yeah, and there's no excuse for willful ignorance, I guess you could say. White people in general in the United States do not have a hub or a place that they can go to figure this stuff out unless they bring it upon themselves to do so. So we can stay ignorant our entire lives and think part of it, we think we know, we had Black History Month, once a year for a month in school, and we think we know everything. We don't know oh God, there's millions of things we don't know. So anyway, American policing didn't start with protecting the communities and, it didn't start that way. And a lot of people think it did. It started with something called slave patrol. And that would be where white men were organized to hunt down enslaved people, crush uprisings, and protect white property. And after slavery ended, you'd think, things would change, but actually the fact is the police became enforcers of Black codes, Jim Crow, arresting Black people for petty crimes like vagrancy. And it was perfectly legal for them to do so. And then leasing the people out to plantations and corporations. And the bottom line is police have always been the gatekeepers of systemic racism. I think it's so important that we know our own history, because then it makes it so that when we think about what's happening today, it's not so far-fetched.
Right.
You think, what? Are you kidding me? I was raised that police were there to protect and serve everybody. When I was little, my parents would say hi to the nice policeman, wave to the nice policeman.
White grievance has always been the strategy for the elite. It has always been for the leadership and who is in charge. So I think it's important to understand that, quote unquote, white people just didn't become, white men didn't just become the slave patrol. They were given that privilege and opportunity from the white elite and the ruling class.
Government.
Have the ruling class of people understanding that we must divide and conquer. We have to keep poor white people and enslaved Africans apart, because if they join together, then they will be a collective force that we cannot control. And so the elite said, if we give these poor white people that power,
authority,
give them some horses, give them a little bit of land, and give them that authority over enslaved Black people. And Black people, again, like you said, after enslavement was quote unquote over, even though I would argue it isn't, that it created that divide and that white grievance of poor white people seeing that they don't have anything or don't have as much as the ruling elite is because of Black people. Well, no, it's because of enslavement, because of the elite finding, kidnapping, taking people to work for free. So that's always going to be, again, the option over paying anyone to do the work. So
you're saying it's by design. It was by design.
By design. So I think that's what's important about this system, that somehow, that this is a strategy, that, that, like you said, gave that privilege and opportunity and power to poor white people, just enough to control, um, enslaved Africans, and like you said, to protect the elite's property. And the property isn't just your house; it's people, right? Because enslaved Africans were considered property, just like a house or a mule or anything else that is not human. Um, so I think that, yeah, that just to really be able to think about that, that this was a system by design, for me is just so, it's just so mind-blowing that we were tricked, that I feel like we were tricked. White people were tricked in so many ways. And I think that still shows up so much today and white grievance, that we're thinking that somehow we're in the situation, middle class is eroding, that we have less than we used to have, that our kids aren't going to have what we had, or we have less than our parents have, that somehow that's because of immigration or black and brown people coming into the country, or um, it just isn't accurate.
The wealthiest elites want us. In fact, they need us to blame the least powerful people for what they are purposely, knowingly, historical and modern in modern times doing. It's imperative to understand the history of policing in order to comprehend the depth of our culture today. Whenever we talk about fooling the masses, the white masses, and tricking us into doing the dirty work of the wealthiest elites, I think of the Lyndon B. Johnson quote. So I probably say this every time, but Lyndon B. Johnson once said, and this is very antiquated and rude, but he said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down upon and he'll empty his pockets for you. I mean, we're being played generation after generation. I mean, and it just drives me nuts because we're harming ourselves, although we might not see it immediately. We're harming our culture, our country, everything, all this hatred.
Living in a capitalist society where it's all about consumerism, it's all about, buying, purchasing, spending your money, um, it's it really lacks love. It lacks compassion. It
Oh,
lacks
very
community.
cold.
Yes, it is. And so when, you know, you shared that quote, which is just so poignant, um, it's like that quote, you just read it in 15 seconds. It's so obvious, right? So why is it that so many white people can't see that, can't look at that and say, wow, am I being tricked? You
It's like
know,
willful ignorance. I mean, we don't want to see it because we,
well, I just don't know if it's because we lack the ability, um, the security of ourselves, the
are we just insecure? You mean, are we just like, it's like a insecurity? Yeah, I mean,
I
to
think it is. I
have
think
to
a
put,
lot of it is when I look at the again many right now. I mean, more specifically, just sort of looking at right now what's happening with young white men who are gravitating towards white nationalism and white supremacy, and who have been, obviously,
toxic
because I think
masculinity stuff and just
yes,
everything.
all of that. I think it is so rooted in their own insecurity. And I think that, like Toni Morrison has says that if you have to have someone else on your knees
Mhm.
in order for you to feel tall,
I was hoping you'd say it.
yeah, that you have a problem. You have a problem. And that's the disease. That's the disease. I honestly believe
Mhm.
that this system capitalizes on.
Mhm.
Of
Mhm.
if I can keep you insecure, if I can keep you thinking that you will never amount to anything because I have rigged the system so you make sure you don't, but I get you to blame it on Black and brown people who literally have less opportunity and access than you do, but somehow I'm going to make you believe they have more.
So we have to blame it on ourselves, otherwise, and
That's right. Who wants
can't
to
handle
do
it.
that? And why we don't look at um, the people who are
The
creating
system,
these laws,
right? The
who are
system,
paying the politicians to create these laws,
right?
who is enabling capitalism to literally strip the country of all of its resources, all of its land, um, all of its people, and our ability, again, to work, to have a family, to be able to just strive. And it's kind of sad. So even though I think that we can see it and we can sort of be open to it, I think once your eyes are open to it, it's really hard not to see it. But how can you get someone to see it when they're hurting inside,
We're
when they
in.
are so insecure?
Right, right. Well, it's the perfect model of a setup to continue a system. And we're not taught how to analyze the system. In the United States, our culture is rugged individualism. If you can't
Right.
succeed, it's your fault. And
And why do you think that is?
that's a
Why?
hard pill to swallow
Why
because
do you think that rugged individualism is the mantra, is sort of the
I,
strategy? Why?
I think it's because the wealthiest elites have to make sure that Black, white, brown, indigenous, people of mixed heritage never look to them as the cause, as the systemic cause of their problems, that we have to look to ourselves. It's our fault. We're not taught to look for systems, and it's on purpose, because if we did, we'd unite against them. Thank you so much for being here with us.
We truly hope this conversation sparked some new thoughts and perspectives, maybe even challenged you in ways you hadn't expected.
Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell. Follow us on social media. Our information will be in the descriptions below.